and welcome to Live Parkinson's, Live an Exceptional Life. I'm your host, Chris Custenbotter, and I've been living an exceptional life with Parkinson's for the past 15 years. The mission of this podcast is to help people living with Parkinson's to lead a great quality of life. Now, what if I told you that the most powerful tool that you have to manage your Parkinson's isn't sitting in a pharmacy, but sitting in your crisper drawer? You'd probably say I'm crazy, right? Well, in this episode, we're talking about the Mind Diet 2.0. It's 2026, and the research in the last 18 months has completely changed how we look at food. Now, we aren't going to be eating to be healthy anymore. We're going to be eating to seal the gut and shield the brain. Now, if you've ever felt like your on periods are getting shorter, or the brain fog is getting thicker, and I know mine is, then you want to check out this episode. I dove into some research on the latest 2025 and 2026 studies that prove that it's never too late to change the trajectory of your symptoms. Now, you may remember I did a previous podcast on the Mind Diet 1.0, in which the data was from 2015, but it has been upgraded to the Mind 2.0 based on the last 24 months of gut-brain axis research. And that's why I want to share this new information with you. Now, before we jump in feet first, let me give you a roadmap of what we'll be covering. And we'll lead it off with the current research, the science behind the Mind 2.0 diet. Then we'll dive into the Mind 2.0 brain pillars, which form the backbone of the Mind 2.0 diet. And then it's on to actionable steps that you can take. And then we'll look at a 3-day jump start. And then we'll tie it all together in a nice bow so that you can walk away with action steps that you can implement in your daily life. So, if you're ready, let's get into it. And let's look at some of the recent research on how the Mind Diet may strengthen the gut-brain connection in Parkinson's. Now, there was a fascinating study published in Geriatric Nursing in August of 2025 titled Mind Diet Adherence Associated with Lower Zonulin Levels in Older Parkinson's Patients, which shines a bright light on how and what we eat may directly influence the progression of Parkinson's disease. Now, you're probably thinking, Chris, what in the world is zonulin? And why should I care if I have lower levels? Well, that's a great question. Zonulin is a protein, and it acts as the gatekeeper of your gut. So when zonulin is high, your gut becomes leaky, hence the term leaky gut, which allows inflammatory toxins to hitch a ride to your brain and wreak havoc. So, then how did the Mind Diet affect this? Well, in this study, researchers looked at 57 older adults living with Parkinson's and examined how closely they followed the Mind Diet, which is a hybrid of both the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet, which was the heart-healthy, low-sodium diet, that emphasizes greens, berries, nuts, whole grains, beans, olive oil, and fish. And they measured zonulin levels. Now remember, this controls how leaky your gut barrier becomes. So what did the researchers find? People who followed the Mind Diet more closely had significantly lower levels of zonulin, higher intake of antioxidants to help fight free radicals, and better gut barrier integrity. So in simple terms, the Mind Diet seemed to help tighten up the gut lining, reducing the chance of harmful substances that could leak into the bloodstream and affect the brain. Now, this is a big deal because it supports the idea that Parkinson's isn't just a brain condition, it's also deeply connected to our gut health. Okay, so why does this matter for those of us living with Parkinson's? Well, this study adds growing body of research showing that the gut-brain axis plays a major role in Parkinson's progression. And nutrition is one of the few things that we can control daily that may influence inflammation and our neurological health. And the Mind Diet may offer a non-drug strategy to support brain function and slow symptom progression. Now, there was also some research on why the Mind Diet may be a game changer for non-motor symptoms. The Pro-21 study, and this was published in the journal Parkinson's Disease in July of 2025, and was titled Beyond Mind and Mediterranean Diets, Designing a Diet to Optimize PD Outcomes. Now, the study is part of the Pro-21 comparison project looking at how different dietary patterns influence the full spectrum of Parkinson's symptoms, not just movement. Now, the results were pretty eye-opening. So what was this study about? Well, researchers compared 3 dietary patterns: the MIND diet, the Mediterranean diet, and a new prototype diet designed specifically for Parkinson's called the PD optimized diet. And they evaluated how each diet affected 21 different Parkinson's outcomes, everything from tremor and stiffness to mood, sleep, fatigue, and cognitive function. Now, this is one of the first studies to treat Parkinson's as a whole body condition, not just as a movement disorder. Now, what did the researchers discover? Well, the headline finding is pretty powerful. The MIND diet's impact on non-motor symptoms was nearly twice as strong as its impact on motor symptoms. So let me say that again. The MIND diet's impact on non-motor symptoms was nearly twice as strong as its impact on motor symptoms. That means the MIND diet wasn't just helping with movement, it was helping with the symptoms people often struggle with the most: mood and anxiety, sleep quality, cognitive clarity, fatigue, motivation, and apathy. And these are a lot of times the symptoms that affect relationships, independence, and our quality of life. And they're often some of the hardest ones to treat with medication. Now, the study also found that the MIND diet outperformed the Mediterranean diet on mood and cognition. Now, the PD optimized diet showed promise, but the researcher said that more research is needed. And people who followed the MIND diet most closely had the largest improvements in daily functioning. Okay, so why does this study matter for people with Parkinson's? Well, this study reinforces something the Parkinson's community has been feeling for years. Non-motor symptoms are just as important and sometimes more disabling than tremors and stiffness. Now, here's the helpful and hopeful part, because I'm always like to be hopeful. Food may be one of the most powerful tools that we have to improve these. Now, the MIND diet is rich in polyphenols, omega-3s, antioxidants, and anti-inflammatory nutrients. These compounds support the gut, they help reduce inflammation, and they help protect brain cells, all of which may help stabilize our mood, sharpen our thinking, and improve our sleep. Now, I'll go into the MIND diet in more detail in a bit, but one of the things you can do is just add some berries to your breakfast and eat leafy greens daily. Okay, one more study to give you the background on the MIND diet before we move into how we can put this information into action in your daily life. So let's take a look at June 2025 study from the American Society for Nutrition in partnership with the University of Hawaii. It was titled "The Hawaii Adherence Study: Why Improving Your Diet Now Still Protects Your Brain." Now, this study delivers on some very encouraging messages that we've seen in Parkinson's research. The study wasn't about perfection, it was about progress, and the results were pretty remarkable. So, what was this study about? Well, researchers followed older adults living with Parkinson's who were not lifelong healthy eaters. These were people who decided to improve their diet later in life after they were diagnosed with Parkinson's. They focused on how well participants could stick to the MIND diet even if they were starting from scratch. And the big question, does improving your diet after a Parkinson's diagnosis still make a difference? And the answer was a clear yes. Now, what did they discover in this study? Well, participants who improved their adherence to the MIND diet, even modestly, experienced a 25% lower risk of cognitive decline. Now, that's not a small number. That's a meaningful shift in how someone thinks, remembers, plans, and stays independent. And here's the key. The benefit was even seen in people who made changes later in life. The study also found better diet quality was linked to slower memory decline, and participants reported better attention and mental clarity. And here's the kicker. Improvements were seen in months, not years. So this reinforces the idea that the brain remains responsive and adaptive even in Parkinson's. So why does this study matter for people with Parkinson's? Well, many people feel discouraged if they didn't eat perfectly earlier in life. And I can say I'm one of those people. Now, this study flips that narrative. It shows that your brain still responds to positive changes and you can strengthen cognitive resilience at any age, and that finally, diet is a powerful, accessible tool. No prescription is required. Now, the Mind Diet is high in foods that reduce inflammation, it supports the gut, and protects neurons. Even partial adherence can help. All right, let's turn our attention to the Mind Diet 2.0 brain pillars. Now that we've looked at the why behind the 2025 research, let's get into the how. And I like to call these the brain pillars. These aren't dietary suggestions. Think of these as pillars as your daily biological toolkit for protecting your neurons and making sure your medication is actually doing its job. Let's break down these three pillars, which are the power of purple, the green highway, and the 30-60 strategy. So starting with pillar number 1, the power of purple, we'll talk about anthocyanins. Now, we've known for a while that berries are good for us, but the 2025 data on anthocyanins, which is the pigment that gives blueberries and blackberries their deep color, it's a game changer. Because now research shows that these compounds act like a specialized neuro-shield for your dopamine-producing cells. They actually cross the blood-brain barrier and help clear out the cellular trash that can cause inflammation. So here's your action step. The key is not to overthink it. Your goal is simple, just a half a cup a day. Now, me personally, I love berries, blueberries, blackberries, black raspberries, and I can sit and eat a whole container at a time if I'm not careful. Now, the nice thing is they can be fresh or frozen, and the key is to make sure you see purple in your bowl every morning. So it's like putting a fresh coat of armor on your brain before it even starts. All right, pillar number 2, leafy greens. These are what they call the nitric oxide boosters. And let's talk about leafy greens. Now, we used to think greens were just for vitamins, but the new research is all about nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a signaling molecule that tells your blood vessels to relax and open up. In imaging studies, they've shown that when we have high levels of nitric oxide from greens like spinach, kale, and arugula, which is also known as rocket, we see improved blood flow specifically to the basal ganglia. Now, for those of us with Parkinson's, the basal ganglia is the engine room for movement. So by eating your greens, you're essentially widening the highway for blood and oxygen to reach the parts of your brains that need it the most. So your action step is to aim for 1 nitric oxide salad daily. Now, if you aren't a fan of taste, then take a handful of spinach and throw it into your smoothie. You won't even taste it, but your basal ganglia is going to thank you. And then finally, pillar number 3, the protein Levodopa timing strategy. And let's talk about the 30-60 rule. Now, this might be the most important pillar for your daily life. Now, we've learned that protein is a competitive traveler. So if you eat a steak or a bowl of yogurt at the same time that you take your Levodopa, the protein and medication are going to fight it out to get through the same door in your gut. And it's usually the protein that wins, and your medication is left sitting on the sidelines. This, of course, then leads to those frustrating off periods where you feel like your meds just aren't working. So the gold standard is the 30-60 rule. You want to eat your protein 30 minutes after you take your meds or 60 minutes before. So your action step here is to look at your medication timing right now. If you take your dose at 12 p.m., then wait till 12:30 to have that turkey sandwich. This simple shift in timing can be the difference between a day spent in frozen or off mode and a day living exceptionally. So those are the 3 brain pillars: purple protection, greens for blood flow, and timing for medication success. It's simple, it's actionable, and it's backed by the latest science. All right, now we've talked a lot about the science and the data and the specific brain pillars. Now let's bring this down to simple, actionable steps. If you're sitting in your kitchen right now, or maybe you're out for a morning walk, you may be asking, well, what does this actually look like on my plate today? So let's break down the basics of the Mind Diet 2.0, and more importantly, the 3 golden moves that you can start right now to take advantage in your life. So what is the Mind 2.0 diet? Well, think of the Mind Diet as a high-performance offspring of the Mediterranean and DASH diets. But version 2.0 is special. It's not just about heart health anymore. It's about sealing your gut to shield the brain. And we talked about the latest research that I shared from geriatric nursing that proved that this pattern helps lower zonulin levels, which helps prevent the leaky gut. And that's going to help us. It's like if we have a leaky gut in Parkinson's, it's like leaving the front door open for inflammation to walk right into our nervous system. So by eating the Mind Diet way, you're effectively locking the door and protecting your dopamine-producing neurons. So action step number 1 is the daily berry dose, and that's the purple power. Remember, half a cup rule. Your goal is a half a cup of berries every single day. You can toss them in oatmeal, put them on your cereal, or throw them in your yogurt. Or if you're like me, I like to pop them straight into my mouth and eat them that way. Action step number 2, the leafy green highway. Your goal, 1 cup of raw greens or a half a cup of cooked greens daily. And this would include all the different types of lettuces: green lettuce, red lettuce, arugula, spring mix, and then spinach and kale. Now, if you aren't a fan of salads, put them on a sandwich or throw them in a smoothie. The nitric oxide will help relax those blood vessels. And then action number 3, step number 3, which we talked about, is the 30-60 timing rule. And your goal is to time protein-heavy meals, that's your meat, beans, and dairy, to 30 minutes after or 60 minutes before your medication. Action step number 4, hydration and salt. Try to drink 8 ounces of water with every meal to stay hydrated. And if you struggle with orthostatic hypertension, ask your doctor if it's okay to add a pinch of sea salt to your water in the morning. And then next up is the Brain Box snack list. Now, pick one of these per day to hit your 2026 nutrient targets. Now, a handful or a quarter cup of walnuts or pistachios, 1 medium apple with the skin on, which contains quercetin for brain health, 2 squares of dark chocolate with at least 70% cacao for flavonoids, and then pumpkin seeds, which are high in magnesium for muscle relaxation. Now, let me give you a quick 3-day sample meal plan for the Mind 2.0 diet. So breakfast, day 1, is low protein, high fiber, and that could include overnight oats with chia seeds and a half a cup of blueberries. And then for lunch, the Mind Power Bowl, a spinach salad with walnuts, strawberries, and olive oil vinaigrette. And then dinner is the protein anchor, grilled salmon for omega-3s, quinoa, and asparagus. Now, day 2, breakfast could be avocado toast on sprouted grain bread with hemp seeds. Lunch, lentil soup, which is high in fiber with a side of kale chips. And then dinner, roasted chicken breast with sauteed zucchini and a small sweet potato. And then day number 3, for breakfast, Greek yogurt. Remember to check your timing for your protein. You mix it with blueberries or blackberries and flaxseed. Lunch, chickpea tuna salad and lettuce wraps. And then for dinner, ground turkey stir fry with broccoli, peppers, and brown rice. Now, if you're busy, one of the things you can always do is pre-batch your meals and pre-package your snacks so that you can grab them on the go. So as we wrap up today's look at the Mind Diet 2.0, I want you to take a deep breath and realize something important. You're not a passive passenger in this journey with Parkinson's. By simply choosing what goes on the end of your fork, you're actively engaging in neuroprotection. You're taking the research we discussed today from the Power Purple and the Green Highway to the 30-60 rule and turning it into a shield for your brain. Living an exceptional life doesn't mean living without challenges, because we experience challenges every day. What it means is meeting those challenges with the best available tools in our toolbox. Now, today we've added 3 of the most powerful nutritional tools in your toolbox. Start small. Maybe it's just adding those berries tomorrow morning, but start today. If you found today's episode helpful, please don't let your journey end here. Visit liveparkinsons.com to subscribe to the free monthly newsletter. And then when you join our community, you get the latest research updates, deep dive articles, and other free resources to help you live your best life. And finally, if you believe in this mission and you want to help me continue to bring the latest science and strategies to the Parkinson's community, I would be honored by your support. You can help keep this show running by clicking the support the show link in the podcast description or visiting ko-fi.com/liveparkinsons to make a contribution. Every donation, no matter the size, directly supports my goal of helping people with Parkinson's lead a great, quality, exceptional life. So thank you for spending time with me today. Keep moving, keep fueling your brain, stay healthy, stay strong, and live your best life with Parkinson's. Thanks again.